Make room in your heart for an old story.
Make room in your heart for something new.
Make room.
Here is the space.
Come, Mary and Joseph. Come, Mary and bright. Come, scared and doubtful. Come, complicated families and all.
Come, child, the one within you loved right through. Precious, holy other. Come, be tender and fragile.
Come, toilers and tenders, innkeepers and magic makers, tired and busy, trying your best. Let it unfold.
Come, wise ones and gift givers. Whatever it is, it will be enough. Rest a while. Rest a while with these twinkle lights.
Whoever you are, whatever the state of your heart, scared or star chasing, surrender to this story of old love and faith.
This is a story of love arriving in an unexpected place. A love born into this world that just keeps on making room for you.
Whatever it is that brings you here tonight, whatever it is that you bring here tonight, newborn love is just getting started.
Come, let us worship together.
We join Unitarian Universalist congregations around the world in opening our Christmas celebration this evening by lighting the chalice to mark the holiness of our gathering. Here in the sanctuary, the parents of newborn babe Charlotte will light our chalice. And if you are at home, I invite you to light the candle along with us as I read these words from January 15th. I cannot tell you how the light comes, but I know that it's more ancient than imagined, that it travels across an astounding expanse to reach us, that it loves searching out what is hidden, what is lost, what is forgotten, or in peril, that it has a fondness for the body, for finding its way towards flesh, for tracing the edges of form, for shining forth through the eye, the hand, the heart. I cannot tell you how the light comes, but that it does, that it will, that it works its way into the deepest dark that influences you, though it may seem long ages in coming, or arrive in a shape we did not foresee. So may we this day turn ourselves toward you, May we lift our faces and let it find us.
May we bend our bodies to follow our siblings. May we open and open more and open still to the blessed light that comes.
Born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the babe who was born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Assembling all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it is written by the prophet. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means the least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod summoned the Magi secretly to learn the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search diligently for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After listening to Herod the king, they went on their way, and behold, the star they had seen when it rose ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to the country by another route.
The Camels Speak by Lynn Unger. Of course they never consulted us. These were wise men, kings, star readers, and we were merely transportation. They simply loaded us with gifts and turned us toward a star. I ask you, what would a king know of choosing presents for a child? Had they ever even seen a baby born to such simple folks? So naked of pretension, so open to the wind. What would such a child care for perfumes and gold? Far better to have asked one born in the desert, tested by wind and sand. We saw what he would need, the gift of perseverance, of continuing on the hard way, making do with what there is, living on what you have on the inside. The gift of holding up under a burden, of lifting another with grace, of kneeling to accept the weight of what you must bear. Our footsteps could have rocked him with the rhythm of the road, shown him comfort in a harsh land, the dignity of continually moving forward. But the wise men were not wise enough to ask. They simply left their trinkets and admired the rustic view. Before you knew it, we were turned again toward home, carrying men only half willing to be amazed. But never mind. We saw the baby, felt him reach for the bright tassels of our gear. We desert amblers have our ways of seeing what you chatterers must miss. That child at heart knows something about following a star. Our gifts are given, have no doubt. His life will bear the print of who we are.
sign for those of us who weren't quite sure. Gold I bring to crown him again, love forever, ceasing never, in our hearts to reign. In the midst of deep uncertainty about politics and whatever is happening in the sky, three sages see a star and decide to follow it. They've traveled quite a distance to offer their gifts, and Melchior, the king of Persia, brings gold. In some ways, this isn't so different in their context than it is for us. Gold is heavy, though, so most of us would simply Venmo the Christ child. But on its face, it's a transfer of wealth. For this poor boy born to a poor family, this gift of material resources cannot be underestimated. If the child is to eat, to grow, to live, gold or something like it, it's necessary. But the gold in this case, it's not a handout, it's not an act of charity. The Magi, they come seeking a poor brown child in Palestine who is not considered a citizen and who later dies as a convicted criminal. That's much later in this story. They come knowing that the child they seek is poor and a king. Kings themselves, they offer homage to this King of Kings. The gift of gold isn't a subsidy, it's tribute. With this gift of gold, they acknowledge that their fortunes are bound up with that of Jesus. Unlike the Jews to whom this child is born, the Magi, they're not subjects of the Roman Empire. And yet they see the rising of the star, and they know that something significant is happening. They know that somehow their liberation is bound up with this child, and they have come from far away to be present at the birth of something holy.
The second gift from the Magi takes a little more translation into the modern era than gold. There is no incense burning or smell-o-vision app for your phone, at least not yet. But in the ancient world, frankincense had been used for centuries in religious ceremonies to cleanse and purify, to heal the sick, and to honor the divine. In the book of Exodus, there are instructions for using frankincense along with other spices and perfumes to burn an offering in front of the Ark of the Covenant. The smoke itself from burning incense is representative of the prayers and adulations of the worshipers. You know, often God's senses are described as how God sees everything and hears people's prayers. But in the ancient world, it turns out God's sense of smell, God's divine olfaction, the ability to smell these burnt offerings was an important function. And so the gift of frankincense to the baby Jesus is the gift of recognition, of setting apart, of naming the holy and the miraculous wherever we encounter it. May this gift remind us not simply to move through the hustle and bustle of life, of this season, or even of this very night, in a preoccupied rush, but rather to slow down and to take the time to name and praise and honor that which is good. Each night a child is born is a holy night. Each time hope is born anew in our own souls, a divine moment, worthy of recognition. Myrrh, like frankincense, was also used for anointing kings and divine figures in the ancient world. In particular, myrrh becomes associated primarily with embalming. So this gift of myrrh is another gift of recognition, specifically of recognizing the mortality, the fragility of life and hope. For the hope born this night is not the relieved sigh of finally Jesus is born and everything is going to be all right now, but rather it is the hope that a babe is newborn in the shadow of empire. A new way is possible. But the success of this new way, at least how we imagine it now, is not guaranteed, and even the most radically lived out life will meet its end. Each individual instance of hope may well be snuffed out by empire. Yet even in the face of such death, in the face of such apparent failure, if we are prepared to respond not with despair, but with recognition, perhaps even with ritual, to honor what is lost, to embalm, to entomb, we may yet glimpse the immortality of hope, resistance, and liberation.
After an activist arrested for placing water in the desert. A Unitarian Universalist, water and medical aid government, there we go. Some years ago, after Scott, placed water and provided medical aid in desert of Arizona to those crossing the border and needing emergency provisions. After Scott was arrested, I went with a contingent of Unitarian Universalist ministers, Quakers, Jews, Presbyterians, people who weren't religious at all, but had some sort of elected position, something that would be a big show of public witness if we all got arrested, like this young man, like so many who were crossing the border themselves. We prepared ourselves and prayed and sang songs and learned what it would feel like to hold each other's hands as hundreds of border guards came sweeping down as we made a show of placing a few jugs of water each ourselves. Days of anxiety and fear went into that preparation. And then when the day came and some went out 100 feet, and some went out 100 yards, and some went out 5 miles, none very far, but difficult enough seeming with it being so hot out. Nothing happened. The border guard never came, and all was well. For those who needed water that afternoon or evening or whenever it was that they'd stumble across it, it would be an unexpected gift. Unless, of course, the water jugs were smashed in, just as they often are, to deter those crossing. Nothing happened, that is, until we were driving home to the airport, far from the border at that point, but not so far that crossings and stop are legally prohibited. And so our caravan was stopped, and we were all asked to verbally confirm that we were American citizens. The driver said yes. The passenger sitting next to her said yes. And throughout our van, yeses echoed out. I didn't say anything, not because I was demonstrating incredible courage in the face of authority, but because I was asleep. I have this thing where when I get in a moving car, hopefully like Charlotte and other babies, I fall asleep immediately. The guards were not impressed. My companions roused me and asked the question again, and still I said nothing. Not out of extraordinary courage, but again, because I was still sleepy and not totally sure what was going on. By the time I really came to, at that point, it was clear we were in the middle of something. And so dispositionally, I was not inclined to suddenly become cooperative. So that became more of a scene. Is it required? Is it legally compulsory that I answer your questions? What happens if I decline to answer your question? For the record, I am an American citizen, but I didn't appreciate the poke, nor being woken from my nap. Eventually, it became clear that my van and the 14 behind us were being stopped merely for my playing out of this little power play. And so eventually I conceded and said yes. And on our merry way we were. Later, my companion said, well, you know, we didn't talk about that. We didn't know it would happen. We didn't know. When you declined to answer, we thought, oh shoot, we should have done the same thing. We didn't rehearse this part. What's the song about silence? It wasn't extraordinary courage, but my companions, they thought it was. They thought if I had gone first, they too might have had more courage. There's nothing to be blamed or discredited here. My companions did the best they could. But the wise men, those traveling on camel to bring their gifts to a kingdom far away, an empire not their own, to a babe they know nothing of, they too had had no rehearsal. Yes, they had been trained in the etiquette of royal to royal and what are the proper things to say when giving your myrrh. How do you not giggle after saying that word? But to a poor boy born to a poor family, well, they had no training in giving this kind of gift. So they looked to the sky. They wondered, what do we do now? They looked for signs of whether they should stay or go. When the star appeared, they knew what the next move was. They knew what to do. They're lucky in that they come later in the story. The star had appeared already to the shepherds, and the shepherds were befuddled, scared, and afraid. An angel appeared and told them to follow the star, to think of it as a sign, to be not afraid, to show whatever crumb of courage they could muster. But coming later, these wise magi, they looked to each other for courage and sustenance. It's not every day we follow a star. Though looking to the sky and wondering if we should come or go, if we should stay, if it's safe to travel. That's the story of this weekend across this nation. This story of uncertainty over our heads. Well, that's the story of this pandemic. The story of not knowing what comes next or why exactly you have arrived here. Well, that's the story of Jesus' birth, the story of each and every birth, each and every spark of the divine made human in each of you. Like the wise men, we look to our companions for courage, for an example of how we might find some crumb and bake it into something nutritious and good. These wise men, they followed the star, but they followed a different kind of guidance, leaving Bethlehem that day. Herod had come specifically to tell them, when you find this child, return to me. Come back. I want to know. I wish to worship him. Pro tip, Herod did not wish to worship this child. There was violence and malice, oppression in store. Suddenly, these three kings, despite all their training and all the proper etiquette, and even the promises they had made to Herod to go back and tell him what they had learned, went out the window. Whatever courage they found in that manger, with this family surrounded by animals and a deep and abiding love, allowed them to renege on whatever loyalty to empire had formally guided their steps, to say, there's another answer here, to imagine a new possibility. Having been warned of Herod's true intentions, the Magi went home by another way. This Christmas, we are called, each and every Christmas, we are called each and every day. We are called, my people, to find whatever crumbs of courage that we can muster, to hold them out as an example to others, to seek them where they appear otherwise, and to change our plans if what is holy and sacred and tender and loving demands it. Another way is possible, my friends. this Christmas, I invite you to seek it. Please join me in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, God of many names, of many divine sparks, and no name at all, you who are abundant love, may we know in this holy embrace that whatever gifts we have to bring to this world, to this gathering, to this community, or to ourselves is enough. Each of us carries what we have. And at our best, we might polish it a bit or set it on fire so that all might smell its sweet incense. May all that is bound up inside us be liberated. And where another way is possible, another road, another way of being, a more loving and more just alternative to the despots of empire. May we seek to go with loving companions. May we look to the sky, to the storm, and to the stars to find guidance where it may come, knowing that we don't need to know the ending, only the very next step, the very next line of the song, the very next hand to reach out to. May it be so. Amen.
Let all within praise his holy name. Christ is the Lord. Then ever praise we his power and glory, evermore proclaim his power and glory, evermore proclaim.
One of the ways that our community makes room and brings gifts, both material and wondrous, to one another is through the Grace Fund. This fund is used by Reverend Sherry and myself in many different ways to bless and support community members in times of joy, sorrow, and transition. Whether it's to buy flowers for a member's 100th birthday or propane to keep local shelters warm during a historic winter storm, this fund enables us to provide compassion and care to folks in our community. Grounded in a deep sense of gratitude, may we now give generously for the work and witness of Unitarian Universalism and for the great gifts this community makes possible in the world.
Howard Thurman writes, "I will light candles this Christmas, candles of joy despite all sadness, candles of grace to ease heavy burdens, candles of love to inspire all my living, candles that will burn all the year long. We will light candles this Christmas, candles in remembrance of friends and family and loved ones no longer with us. We honor their lives, their love, the light they brought to our world. Candles of hope for each child born into this world, and especially those born feeling unsafe or uncertain or uncounted. We build a world where every child is a holy child. Candles of peace for the anger and isolation and violence that plagues this world and burdens our hearts. We pray that we all turn away again and again from the forces of destruction to find a new way to embrace creation. Candles in love for each and every child born, for each and every adult. We give thanks for the light of every being, and we give thanks for the chance to be together on a night like this. This night, like every night, is a holy night. So I invite you to rise in body or spirit and make your way to the perimeter of the room, carrying only your candle and probably your baby. And if you're online, I'll invite you to join us in this candle lighting. We're gonna take our flame from the chalice here, and I'll pass it to people on either side of me. Like the spark of new life, hold the flame upright, and the candle that you're lighting, hold it sideways. Sometimes it takes a few tries. And as you pass the light to your neighbors, and we begin to illuminate our circle together, I invite you to join us in singing Silent Night.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. Round yon virgin, mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake
a moment to look around, to look for the crumbs of courage and companions for the journey. Don't miss the miracle, my friends. Hold your candle a little higher to see by. And in just a moment, I'll invite you to lower it and snuff out your candle with your fingers if you're feeling brave or foolish. Whatever crumbs of courage you find in the companions around you, lift them up. Go to find another way. Go in hope. Carry this light with you. You are the miracle, a spark of divine love placed into your fragile human body. No, you're not the only miracle. Everybody else is here too. But it's Christmas, and you are enough. Come, let us find another possibility together. I love you. Go in peace and love. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.